Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Continuing with Stillness Flowing, Chapter 6, page 347. Part 3, Ways and Means, Skillful Means. The hindrances do not appear in the mind as the result of meditation. Rather, it is that meditation reveals hindrances that are already latent within the mind, but which are difficult to isolate and deal with effectively in daily life. Meditation might be compared to putting the mind under a microscope in order to see the harmful viruses, invisible to the naked eye, that are threatening its health. Longpo reminded his disciples that encountering the hindrances in meditation should not be a source of discouragement. In dealing with hindrances, meditators were getting to know how the mind worked and how to deal with it most effectively. He said that meditators should be constantly observing and reviewing what worked in their meditation and what did not. They should treat their mind as parents did a child, expressing a measured appreciation and encouragement when it did well, being consistently firm and fair when it needed admonishment. The untrained mind was like a willful child that followed its moods and often got into mischief. The meditator was not to smother the mind with overly close attention, but to keep a constant eye on it wherever it might go and prevent it from falling into danger. Learning from mistakes and being creative in finding ways to deal with problems that arose in meditation were good things. At the same time, care should be taken not to develop so many skillful means that the essential simplicity of the practice was forgotten and more harm done than good. Physical pain. Quote, "Sometimes you may break out in a sweat, big beads as large as corn kernels rolling down your chest. But when you've passed through painful feeling once, then you will know all about it. Keep working at it. Don't push yourself too much, but keep steadily practicing." End quote. Physical discomfort arising during sitting meditation can range from a dull ache to cramps to agonizing pain. As the discomfort is dependent upon the meditator's choice of posture, he or she has the power to bring it to an end by moving. The question arises as to whether the meditator in pain should change posture, and if so, at which point. Longpo's usual advice was that meditators should not move out of a reactivity bred from fear or anxiety. At first, they should attempt to turn attention from the pain by repeatedly returning to the meditation object. If that became impossible, meditators should take the physical sensation of pain itself as their meditation object. In the case that mindfulness was still not strong enough to deal with the pain, then the meditator should change posture. Longpo cautioned his disciples, given to pushing the limits of their endurance, to ensure that their wisdom was always governed, to ensure that their enthusiasm was always governed by wisdom. Too much willful endurance of physical pain in meditation by a beginner could gradually lead to a sense of dreariness, an aversion to practice, or in extreme cases, a visit to the doctors. On some occasions, Longpo urged disciples to persevere right through the dark tunnel of painful feeling and emerge on the other side. Meditators who can endure pain to the point at which it reaches a crescendo and then dissolves experience a great rapture and enter a state of deep calm. Having gone beyond painful feeling in this way, meditators' fear of pain and thus of death is usually much diminished. Even more importantly, the natural separation of the physical feeling of pain and the awareness of it provides a profound understanding of the impersonality of feeling. The realization of how much of what was assumed to be physical pain is, in fact, the instinctive emotional reaction to the pain, and that it can be released through mindfulness, can be the grounds for a significant breakthrough in practice. The right approach. In its most elevated form, paññā manifests as the penetrative insight into things as they are, which eliminates the defilements generating suffering and constitutes the culmination of the Buddha's path to liberation. But the same training which achieves its consummation through wisdom also begins with wisdom. At this initial stage, it is referred to as mundane right view. Its most important feature is a conviction in the law of karma and the human capacity for liberation through practice of the Eightfold Path. Luang Por devoted a great deal of time to correcting the misguided views and false assumptions that could lead meditators astray. Time and again, he sought to clarify the principles of right view, which he called the cool place where all heat and agitation cease. One persistent wrong view involved a belief that the causal process leading to liberation could be bypassed by means of a certain technique or skillful means. Luang Por's insistence on khanti, or patience, as the fundamental virtue and practice of the Buddhist path meant he gave short shrift to people impatient for results. When a lay meditator asked him for a shortcut, he replied, quote, "If that's what you want, you might as well just forget about the whole thing." On another occasion, he said, "If the causes are insufficient, the results will fail to appear. It's natural. For liberation to take place, you must be patient. Patience is the leading principle in practice." Speaking to a group of lay meditators, he said, "Meditating in order to realize lucid calm is not the same as pressing a switch and expecting everything to be immediately flooded with light. Putting forth effort in meditation is like writing out a sentence. You can't omit a single one of its words or phrases. All dhammas arise from causes. Results will only cease when their causes do. You must keep steadily doing it, steadily practicing. You're not going to attain or see anything in 1 or 2 days. You must try to put forth a constant effort. You can't comprehend this through someone else's words. You have to discover it for yourself. It's not how much you meditate. You can do just a little, but do it every day. And practice walking meditation every day as well. Irrespective of whether you do a lot or a little, do it every day. Be sparing with your speech and watch your mind the whole time. Keep refuting the perception of permanence in whatever arises in your mind, whether pleasurable or painful. Nothing lasts. It's all deceptive." End quote. How could it fail to be difficult to train the mind, he would say, when people had neglected to do so all their life up to that time, and probably for many lifetimes previously? The army of Dhamma was still vastly outnumbered by the army of defilements. It would take time to make the contest more equal. Rather than continually looking forward to a desired goal, like a child in a car asking again and again how much longer before they arrived, meditators were encouraged to practice steadily along their chosen path of practice with attention to the quality of the effort that they were making moment by moment. Meditators should trust that when causes were ripe, results would inevitably appear. Quote, "The Buddha taught us to move forward, not too slowly and not too fast, but to make the mind just right. There's no need to get worked up about it at all. If you are, then you should reflect that practice is like planting a tree. You dig a hole and place the tree in it. After that, it's your job to fill in the earth, to put fertilizer in it, to water the tree, and to protect it from pests. That's your duty. It's what orchard owners have to do." But whether the tree grows fast or slow is its own business. It's nothing to do with you. If you don't know the limits of your own responsibilities, you'll end up trying to do the work of the tree as well, and you'll suffer. All you have to do is see to the fertilizer, the watering, and keeping the insects away. The speed of growth of the tree is the tree's business. If you know what is your responsibility and what is not, then your meditation will be smooth and relaxed, not stressed and fretful. When your sitting is calm, then watch the calmness. When it's not calm, then watch that. If there's calm, there's calm. If there's not, there's not. You mustn't let yourself suffer if your mind's not calm. It's a mistake to rejoice when your mind is calm or to mope when it's not. Would you let yourself suffer about a tree, about the sunshine or the rain? Things are what they are, and if you understand that, your meditation will go well. So keep traveling along the path, keep practicing, keep attending to your duties and meditating at the appropriate times. As for what you get from it, what you attain, what calmness you achieve, that will depend on the potency of the virtue you have accumulated. Just as the orchard owner who knows the extent of his responsibilities towards the tree keeps in good humor, so, when the practitioner understands his duties in his practice, then just rightness establishes itself naturally. End quote. When Luang Por saw how important it was for his disciples to acquire a firm foundation of knowledge of the Buddha's teachings, he also warned against the detrimental effect of too much or unwise study. Quote, there are learned teachers who write about first absorption, jhana, second absorption, third absorption, fourth absorption, and so on. But if the mind gets to the level of lucid calm, it's not aware of all of that. All it knows is that what it's experiencing is not the same as in the books. If a student of the texts grasps on tightly to his knowledge when he enters states of lucid calm and likes to keep noting, what's this? Is it the first absorption yet? His mind will simply make a complete retreat from the calm and he'll get nothing from it. Why? Because he wants something. The moment there's craving to realize something, the mind pulls back from the lucid calm. That's why you've got to throw away all your thoughts and doubts and take only your body, speech, and mind into the practice. Look inwardly at states of mind, but don't drag your scriptures in there with you. It's not the place for them. If you insist on it, then everything will go down the drain, because nothing in the books is the same as it is in experience. It's precisely because of this attachment to book knowledge that people who study a lot, who know a lot, tend to be unsuccessful in meditation. End quote. No ideas of gain. Meditators were constantly reminded that they had embarked on a practice of renunciation and letting go. Seeking visions or psychic powers through meditation was to miss the point altogether. If a craving to gain or attain something took root in meditators' minds, then they had entered upon a path without ultimate resolution. The desire to realize some special experience might lead on to new elevated realms of existence, but not to liberation. Seeking rebirth in refined states of consciousness was like a bird flying deliberately into a gilded cage. At the beginning of practice, the best motto was to be cool, steady, and patient. Unwise gaining ideas at this stage could lead to meditators giving up altogether. Quote, sometimes in meditation practice, people make determinations that are too extreme. They light incense, bow, and make a vow. As long as this incense is not burned down, then I will not move from my sitting posture under any circumstances. Whether I fall unconscious or die, whatever happens, I'll die right here. As soon as they've made the solemn declaration, they start to meditate, and then, within moments, the maras, footnote, Malevolent beings, here the term is used figuratively to refer to defilements. The Maras attack them from all sides. They open their eyes to glance at the incense sticks. Oh no, there's still loads left. They grit their teeth and start again. Their minds are hot and bothered and in a turmoil. They're at their wits' end. They've had enough, and they look at the incense sticks again. Surely they must be at an end. Oh no, not even halfway. This happens 3 or 4 times, and then they give up. They sit and blame themselves for being hopeless. Oh, why am I such an idiot? It's so humiliating, and so on. They sit there suffering about being insincere and bad, all kinds of things, until their minds are in an utter mess, and then the hindrances arise. If this kind of effort doesn't lead to ill will towards others, it leads to ill will towards yourself. Why? Because of craving. In fact, you don't have to take resolutions that far. You don't have to make the resolution to tie yourself up like that. Just make the resolution to let go. End quote. Progress in meditation is, for the most part, incremental. The gradually increasing dampness of a walker's coat in fog, as one Japanese master has put it, rather than its obvious drenching by rain. But there can also be periods of great intensity. At such times, desire for clear validation of their efforts leads many meditators to give an exaggerated importance to unusual meditative experiences that occur. The intense feelings of rapture that often accompany such experiences seem to confirm their significance. Longpa's insistence that all experiences are ultimately of the same value, being equally liable to cause suffering to one who delights in them, was hard to grasp for meditators anxious to believe that all the work they had done was finally bearing fruit. If they did experience a notable shift in their practice, it could easily lead to new forms of conceit. Quote, "Don't stick your nose up in the air on account of your practice. Don't make too much out of your experiences. Let things peacefully follow their course. Don't get ambitious. There's no need to crave, to get, or to become anything at all." End quote. On one occasion, a monk came to ask Longpa why it was that, despite putting great effort into his meditation, he had still never seen the lights and colors that others claimed to see. Longpa replied, "See light? What do you want to see light for? What good do you think it would do you? If you want to see light, go and look at that fluorescent lamp. That's what light looks like." After the laughter died, he continued, "The majority of meditators are like that. They want to see light and colors. They want to see deities, heaven and hell realms, all those kinds of things. Don't get caught up with that stuff."
There was a comment about like the dangers of study, but it seems, I don't know if you have any reflections on that, because to me it seems it can be useful, but like, I don't know, any reflections on that topic?
I think, what Longpa Pesalo has always emphasized and makes sense to me is that there's a certain amount that is very useful, very good, especially for, as he's often said, those of us who have grown up in the West without being in any kind of Buddhist culture context, that there is a certain amount of, information about the teachings and about the path that one needs to know. Sort of like you have to have some sort of framework that begins with the conceptual realm, the teachings, the studies, to give you a sense of right view, the path, the goal, the whole purpose of the thing. And so to that extent, study is really good, especially for, as I said, especially for those of us not brought up in a Buddhist culture, but maybe even for those who were brought up in a Buddhist culture that because there's a lot of ideas and thoughts that aren't quite in accord with the teachings in Asia as well. So finding the right amount, the right balance, and again, Luang Por has always emphasized finding just that right amount of study and interest, so that it serves as a foundation for the practice, but that it doesn't become a substitute for the practice in any way. So kind of finding that right measure, and if you find yourself just kind of constantly going back to reading and trying to get it, watch what your motivation is when you're studying, there can be a real charge, in a sense, to figuring out something conceptually, and if there's that sense of, oh, now I get it, and that there's a pleasure that one is tapping into based on that intellectual understanding, to just notice that very carefully, because, as I think was just pointed out in that reading, you get attached to that level of pleasure that comes from intellectual understanding, and then you kind of start to get into that overestimation and confidence that's based on conceptual knowledge rather than actual experience, and that can be a trap. Any thoughts?
No, Ajahn Man talked about this too. He said, when you do your studies and then you just start to practice, you don't really need to pick up the books again, because when you need it, it'll come up at the right moment. But yeah, there is a danger in studying about, say, the jhanas, for example, and trying to create that experience in our meditation, which is absolutely what we don't want to do. Because then it'll just be a superficial, created experience. But like Ajahn Chah said, all you have to do is let go. You don't have to think, am I in the first jhana? Am I in the second jhana? I think a certain amount of knowledge is good. Like even Ajahn Chah and all these Kruba Ajahns had their basic Dhamma studies that they did. And most of his stories come from this, from the Naktam, from the Dhamma studies. A lot of stories that Ajahn Chah tells are from a text that was only recently translated into English for the first time, called the Nidesa, the Sutta Nipata commentary. Bhikkhu Bodhi did that. It's in the new Sutta Nipata. So a lot of stories that Ajahn Chah tells in his talks are directly from that. I liked the point too about the very beginning of the reading, the hindrances. It's not that they arise because you start meditating, but they are uncovered. They're always there, but they're uncovered because you're looking more closely at your mind. And I was reflecting on that yesterday because I was having a multiple hindrance attack. And then I thought, yeah, this is normal for the beginning of a retreat, because those hindrances are always there. It's just you're honing in on them and noticing them, purifying them, working with them.
Not getting distracted from them.
So like in the years ago, that kind of thing would have really thrown me off. But yesterday it's kind of like, well, this is to be expected. It used to be like, oh, I'm such a terrible person. Or kind of just...
Reminds me of Ajahn Amaro used to always say, when people would say, oh, I'm experiencing all these horrible mind states, this isn't what I thought meditation was going to be about. And Ajahn Amaro's response was always like, that means it's working. You're doing the right thing.
Something I've always appreciated about the Thai forest tradition, and Ajahn Chah in particular, in terms of advice around study, and I think it, depends on different people, and say like, one way is right for everybody, and also I think I completely agree with you, like considering where we're coming from as Westerners, both what's helpful for us and also like how much energy we have directed in that area. But also is the encouragement to sort of get the basics of the practice, like the fundamental teachings down, and then just get to work on that. I've always found it very helpful because I think my personality is such that when I'm learning about something, I feel like I have to know everything about it in order to sort of like be certain and like wrap my head around it. And like with Buddhism, that's an absolute recipe for disaster. You have to memorize every single text and the Abhidhamma, and it's just on and on forever, as opposed to this encouragement to just get the basic teachings and then put them into practice. I've always found that just a very, very helpful guide to just return to that, just the core teachings again and again, Which isn't to say that if somebody's interested in, various aspects of the teaching or study that's bad or they shouldn't do that. But I just really, really agree with what you said, that just not to like deceive oneself that it's any different than it actually is. That it's going to replace somehow.
Yeah, because as I was saying, it's easy to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
That rush of intellectual understanding, because it does have its, oh wow.
Absolutely. And it seems clearly there's teachers and practitioners who, for lifetime after lifetime, well, I guess I don't know if lifetime after lifetime, but it appears to me that's their path. And I guess in the Thai forest tradition, there's often the distinction as well between scholars and practitioners. And it is like a bit, there's obviously saying like one's like preferable. But yeah. Sorry, I think I got you.
Sorry, yeah, I thought you were done there. Also, going back to study later after you practice for a long time can be good, I think. Also, like, oh my God, like, wow, that's amazing. I just found that helpful sometimes.
Or is it an articulation of something that you've actually experienced?
Yeah, that's Ajahn Chah who actually said the exact thing actually. Like going in there yourself, doing it yourself, and then once time has passed, then yeah, that's it.
I was just curious, some of the Thai masters, the Thai meditation masters, did they have to like take this extensive Buddhist test, like a scholarly test, and then like before they kind of went out into the forest with the more concentrated practice?
They don't have to. It's most of them did, just because as like Ajahn Chah started out as a village monk, and most monks will have those basic Naktam is called, the Dhamma studies. There's 3 years of studies, and at the end of each year you do like a test. If you don't pass it, you take it again. But it's
most of the Thai monks, I don't think. Some of the Westerners have done it, but not a huge amount.
Yeah, the Westerners haven't really. I did the most basic one just to learn the Dhamma talk Thai. Like, it's good for learning Thai. But you learn things like the Buddha's life story and different sets of Dhammas and defilements and things like that. So you get this basic framework with it.
That seems like it could be very helpful, reflecting back on what Ajahn Mun said about the textual knowledge of kind of appearing when it needs to during your practice, but having that as like a foundation, like in the subconscious, like the extensive kind of.
That's why we have these winter retreats with daily study.
I thought Ajahn Chah had made an interesting point a few weeks back to me around
the importance of not just kind of reading a text and then taking what you think it means and just internalizing that, but rather the usefulness of actually memorizing by like in detail a sutta, because it shows respect for the text, because you're acknowledging that you don't understand everything that you need to draw out of it, and by memorizing it, it's there later on to come up. And I've really found that to be true. Just like the precision of the Buddha's language is like astounding, and it's one of those things, like you were saying, Ajahn, where I go back after years and one simple phrase just hits deeper and deeper and deeper. And it seems like some of the Buddha's like images and poetry actually is very much meant to kind of catalyze experience, like his images of the jhanas as lotus, the bathmen kneading the water into the bath powder, and then the lake with the water welling up, like they're very visceral, and for me at least, when those are brought like with the fullness of their language into a meditation session, sometimes they actually can like help initiate an experience. So I thought Ajahn Chah's insight into like the importance of like actually, or the usefulness of actually memorizing the original words is like, it was very helpful for me in that way. I think Ajahns have similar experiences.
Yeah, I'm just in agreement with that. Memorizing some parts of or all of various cardinal teachings, like the Anatalakkhana Sutta. It's been very helpful just in terms of things popping up during meditation as kind of one sentence or two sentence guides, just pop up and then let them do their thing.